Thank you very much, Professor Kofi Kwashiga. It's very interesting that the two speakers have come out with their own positions. I'd like speakers to take a position, whereas Professor Peter Kotsin says that the schools should continue to propagate their own religious observances, so that as a measure, as an extension of faith. Professor Kwashiga is saying that this should be left to the courts to decide. It's interesting that in Nigeria, these topics are so very much on the burner as we speak. Because our oil boom has been depreciating, and there are no funds to run schools, so many of the states have been returning the schools which they are taking over and made into state schools. They have been returning them to the religious organizations. And as they are doing so, religious organizations are saying, well, he who pays the piper calls the tune. So if we are going to be maintaining the schools, then our children who go to those schools should be entitled to have religious education. I have also had occasion to write on this, and my own position, I think I will leave to the summary that we have at the end. So we'll take questions from the floor. Please let your questions be very brief. I think it should be one major question that you should ask, not 2 or 3 or 4, so that other people might have the opportunity. The hand there, number 1. Any other person? Number 2 in the middle, and number 3 at the end there. Please, let's have the questions. Can you pass the microphones around? Try and be very brief in your questions, please.
Thank you, Program Director. I think as I'm the only one representing African religion, if you are giving one, must give me at least 3, because I'm the president. Okay. Now, my question is to Prof. First has spoken now. You are saying leaving it to the courts. How neutral are these courts? How do you trust them? Because in South Africa, for the head of judiciary, who is a born again, then I'm worried when you say, but leave it to the courts. Now, the question to Prof. From home. Prof, sorry, Program Director, I must introduce this. Now, I want to know, well, forgive me, my voice is too loud, I'm not fighting. Prof, I want to know, I don't want to use the term lie. Which group is not telling the truth? One of them is not telling the truth. The government or the churches. Why am I saying that? In South Africa, because we're all teachers and we are forced on a Good Friday not to go to school. We are forced on the Christmas Day not to go to school. Now, and it is said that there are 2 Christian holidays in South Africa, which is a lie, because there is Boxing Day and there's Easter Monday, and we are forced to stay at home. So, is South Africa a secular state or a Christian state? Because you find in December, the government spending lots of money on the Christmas lights and so on and so on and so on. So let us just, because what we want is honesty. Is South Africa Christian or secular, practical and theory? So I'm confused. That is why I'm asking this question. Because Easter Monday, for instance, has been changed to a family day. I mean, you are being bluffed. On that day, we are all going back to work. We are not living with our families. And then Boxing Day is called the Day of Goodwill. Who said it's a day of goodwill? Because to us, people go to the beaches and so on, and we are forced to observe that holiday.
Thank you. Thank you. The next person, please. The next person is just very close to the last speaker. Thank you.
Professor Goodson, just by way of a comment, I think a positive as well is in section 15.2, there's no mention of the word equality when it comes to religious observance. It's just equity, which furthers the inclusivity of religious observances. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person at the extreme end. I think, yes, you first, and I think I've seen another hand now, but that will come later. Yes.
Just a comment on the case that Mr. Kutzer mentioned. Although I'm an evangelical Christian, when I looked at the interviews on television and the debates, I tended to take the side of Hans Pienaar for the simple reason that if you read those, what you call it, the objectives of those schools, it's very exclusive. You know, and remembering how we as sects were excluded in the apartheid days, I thought that it's in a way a step backward. You know, like most of the schools that Hans Pienaar took to court was people who said that our objective is that all the teachers should be born-again Christians. One of them even said that the objective is that the children should not only receive a good education, but also be confronted with the gospel of Jesus Christ and things like that. I can just imagine thinking about the apartheid days when, you know, every Bible class was an attack on the sectarians like myself, that we are not getting rid of those exclusive issues in schools if we allow schools to have such sort of very particular religious objectives and school rules and stuff like that. I was, even as a Christian, not very much against Hans Pienaar, shall I say so, and his God actions.
Thank you. Next, I think final question.
My intervention is directed at the two professors. No doubt there is a strong correlation between law and religion. The first question I want to ask is, should religion be factored into the lawmaking process? That's it. Secondly, don't you think religion as a tool is open to abuse? Can be deployed in violations of fundamental rights? I want your perspective on these two questions.
Thank you. The speakers will respond. Please, feel free to sit down at the table if you want. Yes, sir.
Thank you for the questions. I hope I can answer all of them adequately. Perhaps we can continue the discussion later on. To Dr. Mdende, the question whether South Africa is a Christian state or a secular state. I think South Africa is neither of them. The history is that Christianity was recognized as the only religion. I think that is a heritage from the colonial past. But the current situation is that South Africa wants to create room for all the religions in the country to be able to exist and to enjoy freedom of religion. And from that point of departure, we can also not say that South Africa is a secular state, especially not if we read that letter which I quoted, which says that this is nonsense and it's rubbish that we want to have Christianity in society. Yes, we do want to have Christianity in society, but we also want to see the other religions taking up their responsibilities and bringing their side in the affairs of society. And they have a right to that, according to the Constitution of South Africa. Professor Sean de Freitas, thank you for pointing out it is indeed equity and not equality. I'm sorry if I used the wrong word there. And then Nico Horn, for your question, it is a problem in many schools, and apparently also a problem in those 6 schools who are charged and brought before court to say that they misuse religion in schools. They see themselves as the teachers and perhaps the school body as such see themselves as evangelizing bodies, and they exclude certain scholars and they designate them and they put them one side. In that sense, one can have not sympathy with Peter, but hear what he says. But that, I think, is not the issue in the end. In the end, the issue is, what does the South African Constitution say? And the South African Constitution says, South Africa, every person has freedom of religion. And the Constitution says religious observances may be conducted in public institutions. But those observances must be according to the rules laid down by the governing body. And they must be free and voluntary and equal. Is that the right word? Equity. All religions must have the same opportunity in a school if we have observances. And I think that will be the deciding question. And that would be the issue that we would like the courts to clear out in these upcoming court cases. I think in the end, what Mr. Hans Pieterse wants is that religion be taken out of schools. He's not always very clear on exactly what he wants, but I think that is part of his reasoning. Now, Mr. Chair, I'm afraid this last question I couldn't hear very well. Could the speaker perhaps just repeat it clearly? Perhaps you understood it better.
Thank you. Thank you. With the first one, that is directed to me, that's how much do we trust the courts? I mentioned that there are three possible approaches to the finding a solution. The first one could be legislation by legislation, but we have already noticed that in the new Education Act, that is the Education Act of 2008, the particular provision that was Section 22 that prohibited school authorities from forcing children to take part in religious programs not of their own faith was removed. And there is a strong suspicion that it was done for a purpose. Now, either we go back and incorporate that provision, or we just go through the process of dialogue, which the National Peace Council is trying to promote. But looking at the Ghanaian society, looking at the attitude of religious leaders from both the Christians, among the Christians and the Muslims, I don't believe that dialogue, leaving it to dialogue alone will do the work. Because if you lay down guidelines just based on dialogue, they may not be legally binding. So they could be breached, and that would bring trouble. So to me, we leave it to the courts. Let the courts decide, and whatever the Supreme Court decides, that will be binding. And I'm sure, in coming to that decision, the court will look at our Constitution, look at our laws, even the previous one and the new one, look at the practice in other parts of the world, look at Ghana's international commitments, and I'm pretty sure that they will come out with a decision that would satisfy the majority. I mean, satisfy the ordinary person, rather than try to satisfy the particular, the main religions. Now, to the question, the first one was, what should be the relationship between religion and lawmaking? Into the lawmaking process. Yes, that's the first one. And then the other one is,
do we think
whether religion is not open to abuse.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Now, the first one, law, religion, morality, and those other factors are very much intertwined. You cannot separate them so much because laws are made by people as the representatives of the people, for them, for ourselves. So, if you may want to ask the question, when you are making laws, you cannot deny that you are infusing some values to the laws you are making. And as human beings, as lawmakers, as legislators, we are a bundle of values. When you think, when you write, when you speak, you are not just being arid. You are expressing your values. Some known to you consciously, some unknown to you. And these values are often formed by our background, our religious beliefs, social, and many others. So, perhaps what we may say is that we should not consciously want to infuse some religious values into laws for our modern, multi-ethnic and diverse societies. But you will definitely find some of those in them. Let me give you an example in the criminal law of Ghana, which was taken, of course, based on the British. We have the law against bigamy. That, of course, is Christian in nature, not African. So, if you marry under the marriage ordinance in Ghana, then you are bound by that provision in the criminal law. If you have a marriage under the ordinance, and that marriage is subsisting, and you marry again, that. But if I decide to marry under the customary law, I can marry two. I'm not caught by that law. So provision is made for the two sides. If you want to be Christian, go and marry under the ordinance. Then you are caught by this. If I decide to marry under the customary law, I'm not bound by that. Same also if you marry under the Islamic system, you are not bound by that. So you can decide where to go. But if you take other aspects of religion, for instance, you should not forget that those values are also found in general moral values also. Thou shalt not steal. I think it cuts across. It's not necessarily just religious. It's something that you can find cutting across. Now, the second one, is religion not open to abuse? Yes, indeed, it can be abused. Particularly in cases where the state and therefore the courts would not want to get too much involved in doctrinal matters. If you decide to join a particular religion, well, that may be your business, but then the state should be interested in what kind of practice goes on in there. Let me give you an example in traditional religion. You have to stop. It seems I'm lecturing.
I'm sorry, we really have to bring the session to a close. But the good thing about this is that this particular session is continuing in plenary at 2 o'clock. So we will just have a change of panelists. We will have 3 other speakers on the same theme of education, schools, and religion. I have the permission of the organizers to inform you that lunch is going to be in Namib 2 Hall, which is just, I think, next door. So we will have, yes, just next door on my left, and that will be on your right. So we will take an hour, and then we will reconvene at 2 o'clock by the grace of God. Thank you. Thank you very much.